Trump approaches homeless poor boy. What he does next shocks everyone. A small boy sat huddled against a brick wall. His name was Michael. He was no older than 10, his clothes worn and too thin for the chilly night air. His arms wrapped around his knees, and in front of him a cardboard sign, carefully written in shaky letters, read, "Hungry, please help." Hundreds of people passed him every hour, some glancing at him with pity, others pretending not to see. A few dropped coins into the empty coffee cup beside him, but most just walked past without a second thought. Michael didn't blame them. He was used to being invisible. Then, something unexpected happened. A sleek black SUV slowed down nearby, its polished surface reflecting the neon lights above. A security guard stepped out first, scanning the sidewalk. Then, the back door swung open. A tall figure in a dark suit and signature red tie stepped onto the pavement. Michael's breath hitched. He recognized that man, Donald Trump. For the first time in hours, Michael looked up, blinking in confusion. Why was one of the most powerful men in the country standing in front of him? And more importantly, what was he about to do? The answer? No one could have predicted it. Michael stared at the tall man in front of him, his small hands gripping his thin jacket for warmth. He didn't know what to say. Most people ignored him. Some muttered things under their breath. Others told him to move along. But this man, Donald Trump, he was looking at him like he mattered. Trump knelt down, lowering himself to Michael's level. "What's your name, kid?" His voice was calm but firm, carrying a weight that made Michael's heart pound. The boy hesitated before mumbling, "Michael." His voice was barely above a whisper. Trump nodded, glancing at the battered cardboard sign in front of him. "How long have you been out here?" Michael swallowed hard. Too long. He looked down, his fingers tightening around the edge of his sign. "Since summer." Trump's eyes flickered with something Michael couldn't quite place. It wasn't pity, it was something else. A calculation, a decision forming. "Where's your family?" Trump asked. Michael sighed, his small chest rising and falling with the weight of memories he wished he could forget. "It's just me and my mom." He paused, then added, "She's at the shelter, if there's room." Trump's brow furrowed slightly. "And if there's not?" Michael hesitated, then shrugged. "We sleep outside." The words were simple, but the pain behind them was immeasurable. Trump didn't move, didn't speak for a moment. The streets around them were alive with movement, cars rushing by, people laughing as they passed. But to Michael, it felt like the world had paused. Taking a deep breath, he continued, "Mom had a job. She worked at a diner, but then she got sick. She missed too many shifts and they fired her. Then we couldn't pay rent." He blinked quickly, trying to hold back the tears. He wasn't supposed to cry. His mother had told him that. "Stay strong, Mikey. People don't help boys who cry." But right now, he wasn't sure how much longer he could be strong. Trump's expression remained unreadable, but his jaw tightened slightly. He was listening, really listening. Michael continued, his voice smaller now. "I used to go to school. I liked it." He looked down at his empty cup, still holding only a few coins. "I wanted to be a doctor." He let out a weak chuckle. "Sounds stupid now, huh?" That's when something shifted. Trump's eyes darkened. His stance, still firm but composed, seemed to shift into something Michael hadn't seen before. A quiet intensity. "No, kid, that doesn't sound stupid at all." Michael looked up, confused. Most people didn't even stop to hear his story. Why was this man treating him differently? Trump turned to his security team, his expression now unreadable. "Get this kid something to eat, now." One of the guards nodded sharply and immediately headed toward the nearest cafe. Michael's stomach rumbled at the thought of food, but he didn't dare get his hopes up. People always made promises, but they didn't always keep them. Then Trump looked back at him, his voice softer but filled with certainty. "And don't worry, you won't be sleeping on the streets tonight." Michael's breath hitched. He had no idea what that meant, but for the first time in months a spark of hope flickered inside him. Michael sat frozen, unsure if he had heard correctly. "You won't be sleeping on the streets tonight." The words echoed in his mind, but they felt too good to be true. People always said things, kind words, empty promises, then they walked away. But Donald Trump? He hadn't walked away. He was still standing there, his gaze unwavering. Michael licked his dry lips. Why are you helping me?" Trump knelt down again, looking Michael straight in the eye. "Because no kid should have to live like this." For a moment, Michael couldn't breathe. No one had ever said that to him before. Just then, one of Trump's security team returned, carrying a steaming bag of food. The scent of fresh burgers and fries filled the air, making Michael's stomach twist with hunger. The guard handed it to Trump, who, instead of just dropping it in Michael's lap, opened the bag himself and pulled out a burger. "Eat, kid! You look like you haven't had a real meal in weeks." Michael hesitated for only a second before grabbing it. The first bite was pure heaven. Warm, salty, filling. Real food. Not leftovers from a dumpster. Trump watched him for a moment before speaking again. "Where's your mum now?" Michael swallowed quickly. "She was at the shelter last night, but I don't know if she got a bed today." Trump turned to his security detail. "Find her." One of the men nodded and pulled out his phone. Michael watched in shock. This wasn't normal. No one had ever cared enough to do something. As he finished his burger, Michael felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Warmth, not just from the food, but from the feeling that someone actually cared. Trump then pulled out his phone and made a call. "I want a hotel room for the night." "No, make that a week. Somewhere safe." He paused. "And get someone from my team to find his mother. I want to talk to her." Michael stared at him, his hands tightening around the burger wrapper. "Wait, you're serious?" Trump smiled slightly. "Kid, I don't joke about things like this." Michael felt tears sting his eyes, but he quickly blinked them away. "But why? You don't even know me." Trump leaned in slightly. "I don't have to know you deserve better." For months, Michael had begged for help. For months, people had walked past him like he was invisible. And now, here was the most powerful man in the country sitting in front of him, making sure he didn't spend another night on the streets. As Trump stood up, he glanced at his security team. "Let's go. We've got a family to reunite." Michael clutched his food, still in shock. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't invisible anymore. Michael sat there, stunned, as Trump's security team sprang into action. It all felt like a dream. One moment, he was just another homeless kid being ignored on the streets. The next, a billionaire was making calls to help him. Trump turned back to him, arms crossed. "Tell me, kid, if you could have anything right now, what would it be?" Michael hesitated. Was this a trick question? Was there a wrong answer? He had spent so long surviving that the thought of actually wanting something felt foreign to him. "A home," he whispered, almost too afraid to say it out loud. Trump nodded as if he had expected that answer. "Good, because that's exactly what we're going to fix." Michael's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Before Trump could answer, one of his security guards stepped forward, holding up a phone. "We found her. She's still at the shelter, sir." Michael nearly dropped his food. "My mom. She's okay?" Trump gave a satisfied nod. "She's okay. And she's about to hear some good news." The next hour passed in a blur. Michael was ushered into the warm SUV, his fingers gripping the fabric of the seat as they drove through the city streets. He didn't know what to expect. Would his mum even believe what had happened? Would she think he was making it all up? When they pulled up to the shelter, Michael's heart raced. He scanned the entrance, and then, there she was, his mother, thin, tired, wrapped in an old coat. But when she saw him step out of the car, her eyes filled with tears. "Mikey!" she gasped, rushing toward him, pulling him into a tight hug. "Where were you? I was so worried." Michael held onto her, his chest tightening. "Mom, you won't believe what just happened." Before she could respond, Trump stepped forward. Michael's mother froze, her eyes widening. "Oh my God! Is that—" Trump nodded respectfully. "Ma'am, your son is one impressive kid. We couldn't let him sleep outside another night." She looked at Michael, completely overwhelmed. I don't understand. What's going on?" Trump smiled. "Let's talk inside." Inside the shelter's lobby, Trump explained everything. The hotel room, the job opportunity, the fresh start. Michael's mother couldn't stop crying. "You're really doing this for us? But why?" Trump leaned forward. "Because no hard-working mother should have to see her son beg on the streets, because no child should have to go to sleep hungry, and because sometimes, when you have the power to help, you just do it." Michael felt his mother's hand tighten around his. "Thank you, Mr. Trump. You have no idea what this means to us." Trump smiled. "Actually, I think I do." The room was silent for a moment. Even the shelter staff looked on, some wiping their eyes. Then Trump turned to his team. "Make sure everything is taken care of. This family needs more than just one night of help." Michael couldn't believe it. For the first time in forever, he wasn't just surviving, he was getting a second chance. By the next morning, the story had exploded across the internet. What had started as a quiet act of kindness was now headline news. "Donald Trump rescues homeless boy off the streets, a PR stunt or a genuine act of compassion." The photos and videos spread like wildfire. A clip of Trump kneeling next to Michael, handing him food, and later reuniting him with his mother, had already amassed millions of views. Supporters were quick to praise him. Say what you want about Trump, but this is what real leadership looks like. He saw a problem and fixed it. No speeches, no empty promises, just action. Imagine if more wealthy people did this instead of just talking about it. But not everyone was convinced. Some critics on social media and major news outlets claimed that Trump staged the entire moment for publicity. Where were the cameras before he stopped? Feels a little too convenient, don't you think? If he really cared, he'd help all homeless people, not just one kid for a photo op. Others twisted the story completely, questioning why Trump hadn't done more for poverty during his presidency. But despite the backlash, one thing was clear. People were talking. Reporters swarmed the shelter, eager to interview Michael and his mother. Some expected them to downplay the moment, to hint that it was just for the cameras. But when Michael's mother was asked about it, her answer was simple. "I don't care what people say. My son has a warm bed tonight because of that man. That's all that matters." And just like that, the debate ended. For the first time in months, Michael slept in a real bed. No cold pavement beneath him, no noise from the streets keeping him awake. Just warmth, comfort, and the feeling of safety. His mother tucked him in, tears still in her eyes. "We're going to be okay, Mikey," she whispered, brushing his hair back. "Really okay this time." And for the first time, Michael believed her. But Trump's help didn't stop at a one-night hotel stay. The next morning, his mother received a phone call from one of Trump's business associates. "Mr. Trump asked us to help find you stable housing and employment. Do you have any experience in hospitality?" Michael watched as his mother covered her mouth in shock. She had worked in restaurants for years before she got sick. Now, someone was offering her a chance to start again. Yes, I do," she answered, her voice shaking. Within days, things began to change. A small apartment was arranged for them, not a mansion, not luxury, but a real home. A place where Michael could have his own bed, his own room, a door that locked. His mother started her new job and Michael was enrolled in school again. On his first day back, he clutched his backpack tightly, feeling nervous. Would people judge him? Would they know where he came from? But as he walked in, he heard someone whisper, "Hey, that's the kid Trump helped." And instead of feeling ashamed, Michael stood a little taller. His life had changed, all because one man had stopped and decided to help. A few days later, a reporter caught up with Trump as he left one of his properties. The cameras were rolling, and the question was inevitable. "Mr. Trump, can you tell us more about the homeless boy you helped? Some say it was just a publicity stunt. Was it?" Trump paused mid-step, adjusting his suit cuff before turning to face the reporter. His expression was unreadable, calm, composed, but with that signature edge of confidence. "You think feeding a starving kid is a stunt? You think helping a mother get a job is for show?" The reporter shifted uncomfortably. He hadn't expected the question to be thrown back at him. Trump continued, his voice steady but firm. "Here's the thing. You don't do the right thing because people are watching. You do it because it's right." The crowd around them fell silent. Trump glanced at the cameras, then back at the reporter. "There are thousands of kids like Michael out there. No kid should be sleeping on the street. No mother should have to choose between food and a roof over her child's head. But you don't fix that with speeches. You fix it with action." The reporter opened his mouth to respond, but Trump wasn't done. "I'm not a politician anymore. I don't need votes. I don't need headlines. But if I see someone suffering and I have the ability to help, you better believe I will." The response was powerful, direct, undeniable. By that evening, the video clip was everywhere. News outlets ran different takes. Some praised him, some tried to spin the narrative. But the public? They had already made up their minds. Comments flooded social media. "This is what leadership looks like. If only more people in power actually did something instead of just talking. Haters will say it's fake, but that kid's life just changed forever. That's real." And then, the moment that sealed everything, Michael's mother spoke out. A news anchor sat across from her in a small, quiet interview. "What do you say to those who claim this was all for show?" She shook her head, eyes shining with emotion. "Let them say what they want. My son is in school. I have a job. We have a home. That's not a stunt. That's a miracle." The interviewer was silent for a moment, then nodded. That clip too went viral. And just like that, the doubts faded. The story wasn't about Trump anymore. It was about hope, about second chances, about how one act of kindness can change a life. And for Michael, it was a new beginning. Michael's life had changed forever. One moment of kindness, one decision to stop and help, had rewritten his future. No longer was he just another kid ignored on the streets. No longer did he have to wonder where his next meal would come from or if he'd ever go back to school. Now, he had a home, a school to attend, and a mother who could finally breathe again. And all because one man stopped. But here's the real question. Why does it take someone like Trump to make a difference? There are millions of Michaels out there, kids sleeping in the cold, mothers struggling to survive. Most people walk past them every single day. But imagine if everyone who had the ability to help actually did. Imagine if kindness was the norm, not the exception. That's what Trump was trying to say when he told the reporters, "You do the right thing because it's right." Because, in the end, it's not about politics. It's not about fame. It's about being human. And now, it's your turn. If you believe more people should step up, if you believe kindness should always come first, hit that like button. If you think the world needs more stories like this, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a powerful moment. And most importantly, drop a comment below. What would you have done in Trump's shoes? Would you have stopped? Because sometimes, one moment of kindness is all it takes to change a life.